Hello, everybody. Welcome back to All Our Parts. I am so excited for my guest. You can find her on TikTok as the Crooked Counselor. Logan, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, honey. It's nice to be here.
Nice to have you. I'm just so excited for this conversation because we met on TikTok. We have just been engaging with each other's content since last year, and everything you post is just real,
Likewise.
authentic, and just straight to the point.
Thank you. Same to you.
And so when we were talking, thinking about, okay, what do we talk about? Burning the bridge, burning that shit, not letting people spend the block on you.
Mm.
I was talking with somebody and they had mentioned, why spend the energy burning a bridge when you can just let it go?
So I think when I hear that question, I think for me, it can be answered twofold, where there is this biological design to stay connected to the pack, even if the
Mm-hmm.
pack is dysfunctional, because it's literally like in our DNA that if you stray
Mm-hmm.
from the pack, you die. The
Yeah.
original family design was not dysfunctional like this, it was much more basic. So, this is something that's become complicated, of course, over generations and generations of trauma. Like there's so
Mm-hmm.
many layers to it. But I think like at a basic biological level, there is that like threat to your survival where even if you can openly acknowledge like this bridge is bad, like it's never gotten me anywhere. Like we both hear it in therapy. They're like, I know, like they're
Mm-hmm.
referring to this part. They're like, I know I should.
Yeah.
I know it's bad, but there is that like biological urge that built into the body saying, don't, you're not going to be
Mm-hmm.
okay. You're going to be alone. So I think that's a part of it. One person's half, like one person's part of the bridge in the relationship can be genuine and pure. Like I explained to
Mm-hmm.
clients, I'm like, there didn't have to be anything unhealthy about your love. I understand that when you entered this relationship, you were
Mm-hmm.
genuine. You deeply love this person. And
Mm-hmm.
that complicates matters when it's time to, even when you do see all the signs, it's time to go. It's hard, it's
Yeah.
complicated.
Yeah. And even as you say that, I'm thinking about some of the messages that were taught in childhood. Be friends with everybody, say hello to everybody, like
Mm-hmm.
make sure you're putting out the pleasantries.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone gets invited to the birthday party.
I also think that like a stark gender difference is that little girls are conditioned to care about other people more first
Hmm.
before they're conditioned to care about themselves. And boys are just given a pass because they're just boys.
Yeah, boys will be boys.
That's just all they're being.
Boys don't have to worry about
Right. No.
caretaking. They don't need to worry about like cleaning up. Boys
No.
are always the one asked, can you move that chair? Can you move that
Right.
desk? Girls are
Mm-hmm.
asked, can you wipe the desk?
Mm-hmm.
We are conditioned so early on to fall into these very specific roles. And then we grow up and we do not know how to fucking let shit go.
Yes, honey, because it becomes a part of your identity, because you become so wired to seek that external validation. When I ask clients, I'm like, can you turn the lens inward? Can you ask yourself that question before you ask me?
Mhm.
Have you even given yourself a chance to answer this question yet? They're like, no, doesn't that make me selfish? And I'm like, oh God, there it is.
Mhm.
There it is. To be self aware is selfish. To
Mhm.
burn a bridge is selfish. You're heartless. You're cold. How
Mm.
could you?
Oh. And
It's
we even like when we think about the role that women have played, they're always meant to keep the family together.
absolutely,
Women are meant
absolutely.
to always hold everything intact. So the
Hmm.
idea of burning a bridge, it's like you're cutting your foot off. You have ruined your entire life because of this one bridge that you have burned.
Exactly. Or that messaging of like, you blew up the family because it was
Hmm.
your job to hold it all together, even if other people were actively destroying it while you were trying to hold it together. You blew up the family by walking away.
You didn't do your part.
You're going
Love
to
you.
do this to
Bye.
your children. You're going to do this to like, it's, yeah, there's so many layers, honey.
When did you make peace with the idea that like burning bridges was okay? Or how did you come to the idea that, you know what, like not every bridge is mine to keep?
So the pinnacle bridge for me was I did decide about 2 years ago to go no contact with my father and my aunt, who were my last surviving biological family members. And there's a long backstory there. But essentially, the realization that I came to was that those relationships had become, those bridges had become so dangerous and destructive to my quality of person that maintaining those relationships was starting to seep in and damage my other relationships. Like, I couldn't be the parent that I wanted to be for my children while still being the child that my parent needed me to be.
Say more on that.
I could not, because like you mentioned a few sentences ago, those roles that we're born into, there's a very
Mm-hmm.
specific set of rules, and it's
Mm-hmm.
you follow specific rules given to you by the person who put you in that role. That is your job, that is your duty, you're a soldier. That doesn't leave a lot of room for evolution and growth and healing. It's very like you're in a box that you essentially, you're an object. So when I made the transition from just being somebody's daughter to then being somebody's wife and mother, for
Mm.
me, in order to be healthy versions of that, it was no longer just about me. So that means that no matter how I learn to function well in these other relationships, I could see at this point there was no way for me to avoid that particular set of rules and roles was literally going to be the death of a healthy marriage, and it was going to ruin my relationships with my own children because there wasn't room for me. There wasn't room
Mm-hmm.
for me to figure anything out. You're just under somebody else's thumb.
Like, you cannot evolve into one thing if you are still playing out your very childhood role that has shrunken you, minimized you, put you in a very specific place. That person cannot evolve if they're 1 foot in, 1 foot out, trying to teeter totter.
Exactly. And here's the thing that I hope so many people come to understand if they haven't already is that the difference between a healthy relationship and an unhealthy relationship is the unhealthy relationship will require you to lose or never discover a relationship with yourself. In a healthy relationship, evolution is a good thing. Growth is a good
Mm.
thing. The nature to evolve, marriage and parenthood are both ups and downs and compromise and all of those healthy relationship behaviors. A healthy bridge is not going to be threatened by the existence of another off ramp. It has nothing to do with them. An unhealthy bridge is no, this is the only way. It's the best way. And if you try to go another way, you'll perish.
Mm. That is something that I experienced. So I am no contact with just about my entire family. And I was only showing up for holidays. That felt like my
Sure.
obligation. And
Absolutely.
so I would come home with my partner, with my friends. And then when I'd sneak in on Thanksgiving or Christmas, I find myself just shrinking,
Oh,
getting
honey.
smaller and smaller in the room. I'm not
Yes.
talking. And so then finally was like, fuck this. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I am, because then I'm going back into the authentic space and I'm processing the shit that I just put myself through
Yes.
because and I'm like, okay, if I am putting myself in this position, this isn't going to serve me if I'm trying to evolve over here and then I'm taking 30 steps backward, going back to the space that has shrunken me to begin with.
Spaces and roles that I tell clients feel painfully familiar, where you're always like, I've been here before. Like it's like squeezing into a pair of jeans that doesn't quite fit. And then the more healing you do, you're like, oh, these really don't fit. And then
Mm-hmm.
you get to a point where you're like, no, actually they're cutting off my circulation. Like I'm going to, it's literally like the relational equivalent of being exposed to toxic gas. And then when you get home to your safe space, you're like,
Yeah.
let out this giant exhale. And it's, you've literally been holding your breath because like you said, you have to shrink down,
Mm-hmm.
you have to lose yourself so you can fit in, when you're missing the whole point of you should be in relationships where you belong, not
Mm-hmm.
fit in.
Mm-hmm. And then, prime example, my birthday just passed. And so my aunt used that opportunity to wish me a happy birthday,
Mm.
to remind me that my profession is to make people feel better and I should feel bad about not seeing my grandmother
Ooh,
who wanted to pray me out of my relationship.
no.
Um, and that she loves me and just doesn't understand the lifestyle. I said, "You haven't called me in 2 years.
You, honey.
So if you wanted to talk to me so bad instead of trying to manipulate me on my birthday, we could just call."
Mm-hmm.
But you have
Mm-hmm.
also proven my point as to why do not speak to you all. And I left it at, I have moved on from this.
Good
I
for
would like
you.
everyone to move on from this. I have moved on and I'm not about to entertain this conversation. I haven't seen you for 2 years.
Good for
And this
you.
is how you want to say happy birthday to me? Like,
Also, absolutely not on telling you that you should feel anything, because that's another red flag that you're in an unhealthy relationship. Somebody telling you how you should and shouldn't feel,
mhm.
somebody telling you how you should and shouldn't live. Things that I would never say to somebody that I genuinely cared about, because I would never want to scare them or shame them into having a relationship with me.
Yeah. And I said, my job as a therapist is to help people identify love, not just the word, but the actions and the feelings behind it.
Absolutely. And our jobs are not to just help people feel happy. Our jobs are to help people understand that they get to feel however they feel for as
Hmm.
long as they need to feel it. And sure, there may be behaviors that we need to address because your feelings are valid, but your behaviors could need
Hmm.
adjusting. That's been true for all of us. But I will never, and I rarely use never, I will never tell someone you don't have a right to feel the way you do. And if you're not as a therapist, and you get it too, the flack we catch, because
Hmm.
aren't you a therapist? Doesn't that mean you should just have unconditional love and acceptance for everyone and everything? No, that's not what that means.
That's literally why we got into this profession
Period.
because,
God.
but that goes perfectly into this current political climate.
No, thank you. No, thank you. Yeah, obviously, there's so much to be said. But on the topic of relationships and burning bridges and then connecting it to the politics, obviously we're seeing so many people create content about right now, like, I voted for this administration and I lost my family, my this person cut
Mhm.
me off, and I just can't believe they would do this to me, like, over politics. And we've already discussed this, but you said it best, it's really not about politics, it's about values. And you are never obligated, regardless of blood relation or any other connection, to maintain connection to, like, people who threaten your livelihood, to
Mhm.
people who don't see you as people.
I was talking to somebody and a friend of mine, and she was like, my family think is calling me passionate. I'm like, this is beyond like passion. This
Right.
is human
Mm-hmm.
decency. This
Mm-hmm.
is like just to respect, literally respect your neighbor.
Right.
And
Right.
you, like, if you feel so comfortable voting for somebody
Mm-hmm.
that's doing exactly what they said they were going to do. And I want to
Yep.
reiterate for everyone who's, oh, I didn't think he'd do it. He's doing exactly what he said he was going to do. He's doing exactly what the people who funded him to run again are going.
I keep hearing people who voted for Trump diminish entire races of people and very real safety issues and very real identity issues down to, oh, that DEI thing, that whole transgender thing. And then these are the same people who, when the coin flips, want you to access your compassion and your understanding for them while they're also objectifying you. My mind, how you think you can take entire groups of people, how you can take the entire history of this country, which could be a whole separate episode, obviously. Like, you're taking entire identities of human beings, you're
Mhm.
reducing them down to what you think of as these little frivolous things that you can't understand why people are getting so upset about. You are literally objectifying people and dehumanizing them. And then you have the audacity to act entitled to their core human qualities of
Mm.
compassion and empathy. Fuck you for that.
Yeah.
Heavy on the fuck you for that.
Yeah.
I'm disgusted.
Your tears, I do not have energy for them. Red and white brigade, this is not the space for you. You made your bed.
Absolutely.
So my choice to not want to spend time with you, not want to educate you, I have that right, just like you
Absolutely.
used your right to vote for a bigot, a racist.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think one thing that really gets to some of the people that I've experienced is they can try to strip you of so many of your rights, but they can't change that you have emotionally removed yourself from them. And boy, does that make them tantrum like a bunch of bigoted babies.
Hmm.
You don't have that control.
And that's so interesting because so many of them will say, I voted based on logic.
Uh
I
huh.
voted based on economy, like these
Mm-hmm.
very practical, tangible things, but they get so upset when we have decided to rescind any emotional energy towards
Absolutely.
the relationship.
Absolutely. And here's the thing is they can't even see that they are already being given more civil treatment than they deserve. It takes an enormous amount of emotional gumption for me to coexist in public with people that have made it very clear that's what they align with. I keep my eyes ahead, I keep my mouth shut, not for their benefit, because I've got children to raise and a
Okay.
job to do, and I'm not going to do it from prison. So I am being civil. I am already spending the amount of emotional energy that I am willing to expend on these interactions, and it has nothing to do with you. It's to keep myself safe. And the fact that I can coexist in an adult and mature way, despite emotional dysregulation that's triggered every day because the world
Mhm.
is burning,
Facts.
acts.
And the fact that we're losing our energy, but we're getting it back. The fact
Mm-hmm.
that we are not knocked down, that we are
Mm-hmm.
not giving up this fight.
Mm-hmm.
I know they expected us to be okay,
Mm-hmm.
whatever, we'll
Mm-hmm.
do what you say. We're not
Mm-hmm.
going to give you the same energy.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, we're going to spend the next 4 years giving you exactly what you deserve.
Absolutely.
And
And
then
then
10 years after that for reparations because you
oh
done
God.
fucked us over.
Ooh, yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, I'm like taking enough to get through today. But yeah, I think what comes back to bite oppressors every single time, like it's like they're shooting themselves in the foot by cutting out entire chapters of history. It's insane, which again could be another episode.
Mhm.
But like the thing that they seem to miss is that nobody is more resilient. Nobody is more resourceful than a trauma survivor. Nobody is more like resourceful, determined, gritty, like creative. It's these natural resources that
Mhm.
are cultivated when you survive these generations of trauma, but you can't buy that in the store. You're not
Mhm.
going to learn that in a book. That is forged in the fire. And that is why, honey, despite like all of these attempts throughout history to eradicate entire groups of people, you've never fucking succeeded. Your track
Yeah.
record is fucking stupid. It's okay. And I'm not
Mhm.
saying there's not going to be a huge mess made in the attempts, but ultimately, your goal of having this be just an open and closing the case on entire groups of people because you think
Mhm.
they're the problem, you're not going to succeed. Nobody ever has.
And I love that you bring up the resilience piece, and that literally ties right back into our point that, like, to burn a bridge, you trust that you have the resilience, that the bridges that are meant for you, the relationships that are meant for you, will be there.
Absolutely. And the scariest but also best thing about that is that it has nothing to do with anyone but you. And that can be incredibly isolating, and it can also be incredibly empowering. It depends on what stage of healing you're in.
Hmm.
But when you realize that ultimately the human condition is that we are born alone in our bodies and ultimately we die alone in our bodies. And the beauty of that is that the healthier relationship you have with yourself, the more that you trust, no matter what's going on outside of you, you have got you. You are never alone because you are safe within yourself. You are your own home. The more that you trust that, I really
Mm.
believe that the universe rewards you for it. I think that being vulnerable, especially after experiencing any type of trauma or abusive relationship, I think that's the bravest thing that anyone can do. I think it's the heart of the human existence.
When you are able to trust yourself that you have got you, the world, in the same way that it will shed the things that do not serve you, will also gift you the
Truly.
things that are meant for you. And because
Absolutely.
you are so sure of yourself, you will be able to receive it and reciprocate it.
Absolutely. I tell clients all the time that your greatest source of shame can actually be your greatest superpower, but you have to heal it.
Yeah. This is giving me so much to think about.
We can do it. I'm happy
I
to
know
circle
this
back.
is the beginning, but it's just returning like back to yourself, like the ongoing process when you allow yourself to evolve, to shift, to grow. And when you feel certain in that and sure of yourself, the universe rewards you with the life that is meant for you, the life that you can hold. But in order for you to be able to hold it, you have to let that baggage, let that shit go.
When did you get on that path and what motivated you to do it?
Honestly, when I was becoming a therapist, because I'm holding space for other people and I'm saying these things and realizing I am not living it out.
Oh,
And I'm realizing I'm showing up to session so heavy. I'm feeling like I'm carrying center blocks. And I'm like,
yeah.
I am reminding people every day of their worth, that they get to create the life that they want. And then I'm here just going autopilot in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I had to start paying attention to patterns. And even as I started posting on socials more often, I was like, I can't say this and then be living out something completely different. And I need to wake up and realize some of these relationships might be here for the wrong reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Once I allowed that congruence and that grief, that loss, the joy, the uncertainty, once I let it all in, I was like, okay, as long as I am feeling certain and sure, if I am leading with love, if I am leading with compassion and making choices that are not harming others, I get to let that go and I get to welcome what is meant for me. It gets to feel ease at some point. And as someone
Mm-hmm.
who has felt like they have always had to be strong, resilient,
Mm-hmm.
independent,
Mm-hmm.
the hardest thing that I have had to learn is how to let ease into my life.
Tell me more about that.
So many of us who grow up, who learn to hold on to our relationships, who learn that we have to fix everything, that we have to be everything for everyone, that we have to always figure it out. I realized, oh, I don't have to figure it out, and that's okay.
Yeah.
I do not need to be superwoman for everyone. I do not
Oh,
need to have the cape on. I
yes.
actually get to let this bridge go, and I will still be okay and still move forward. And that
Yes.
takes a hell of a lot of self-trust. That
Oh,
takes a lot of hope
yes.
that things will continue to go in a positive trajectory. But I
Yes.
realized the war that I was creating in myself was becoming far greater than trying to please other people.
Yes. Yes, honey. I think the word that I always associate that process with is grit. You have to be gritty. And it
Mm-hmm.
is a like, people talk about healing like it's this fluffy little animal. Oh, I'm healing. It healed Zen. Oh, Lululemon. And it's no, healing is actually really gruesome at times. Like healing will, like you said, require you to look in a mirror. It sounds like that was what becoming a therapist was starting to do for you, where you were like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, here's what I'm putting out. But at the end of the day, I'm looking at myself, and
Mm-hmm.
which is brave enough to look at yourself. Like, obviously, the world could benefit from a dose of that. But like, you have to be gritty to look
Mm-hmm.
at yourself, to look at all of yourself, and to recognize not only the dysfunctional systems that you're in, which are
Mm-hmm.
real and can be largely out of our control initially because we're born into them, but also the role you're playing. And like oftentimes, and I hate this part, but like it comes from recognizing qualities of your oppressor or your traumatizer, like whoever that was, like when you feel like they're infiltrating you and you can hear yourself like talking like them, or you can see yourself acting like them, and you're like, oh, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be a hypocrite. I don't want to be abusive. I don't want to be manipulative. Okay, how can I not be that? And then you have to like
Yeah.
override like so many learned systems.
And the dysfunctional relationships, they're not just the external ones, but it's the dysfunctional relationship that you've also created with yourself, reinstilling those narratives that I can't do hard things, that I'm
Right.
not worthy, that
Right.
I can't commit to this, that it's probably not going to work out anyway. I
Mm-hmm.
had a very strong self-fulfilling prophecy, and I have a very strong self-sabotage protector that will light a match faster
Relatable.
than anybody.
I get it.
I realized I didn't know how to receive ease in my life. I didn't know that, okay, like my life gets to be calm. Like I get to be in healthy relationships. Like things get to feel this way. And I would light a match. I'm done rebuilding. I'm tired of this pattern.
I had a session that I'll never forget with a therapist who I was, because I'm really good with hurting people with my words. And I don't
Mhm.
want to lose that quality entirely in myself, because sometimes it really comes in handy and I'm proud of it. Like, quite frankly, I earned my stripes. But my therapist at the time was like, when you talk about hurting people's feelings, like when you talk about these examples you're giving me, it almost sounds like you're proud of it. And I had
Mm.
never had somebody just call me out on the fact that this isn't necessarily what you should be leading with, right? Like it's more of a weapon you access when you need it, but it can't be your standard mode of operation. Like I was literally bringing a bazooka to every water balloon fight. I was also calling things fights that weren't even fights because I had such a dysregulated nervous system that like you're saying, ease, what's that? What do you mean we can have conflict? It was wild. That was wild to me to learn that.
What's your sign?
Thank you.
The OG. Yeah.
What's yours?
Oh, Aquarius.
Oh,
So
yes.
the silent one.
Let me know if you ever want to do a duo. I feel like we could play really well together. I'm just,
This is like a duo right here that
but we've learned enough skills. We've learned enough, but truly, like relationships that require you to continue to operate in those ways. You do have to essentially give yourself permission. You have to give yourself permission to realize that you're not a role, like you're a human
mm,
being. Your role can change, you can change. For me, what you're talking about was my struggle was I felt, because I come from an Italian Catholic background, so like
okay.
loyalty is really big.
Hmm.
Like we can't ignore the cultural implications, right? I understand where that came from, like loyalty and survival.
Hmm.
But toxic loyalty is a huge reason why people don't burn bridges, because they are going down with the ship no matter what. And
Hmm.
that's exactly what's happening in this country right now. There will be people that will gladly go down with the ship, Trump at the helm, every step of the
Hmm.
way. And you do not have to go down with the ship. And you are not abandoning a relationship if that relationship already required you to abandon yourself to stay in it. No, find a life raft. Find a life raft and don't go poking holes in it by, like you already identified, self sabotaging. You're like, no, I want to live, but it's hard.
I'll row myself. I'll swim.
I have no doubt.
Hard.
Aquariuses could.
Water bear. Where can people find you if they are interested in checking your stuff out, interested in working with you?
So I am predominantly on TikTok. I do post some on Instagram, but TikTok is the main source of being able to interact with me. And I do individual therapy, which obviously is my private practice. But yeah, people can find me on TikTok anytime. I'm really enjoying the community that we've built. I think it's been obviously, TikTok has been a lot of things, but I do think in large part, it has been a huge blessing for people to learn how to find and connect with their people, like how to find that village that you need. I think it's been complicated, but I think it's been a blessing.
And my question to all of my guests this year is, what is your commitment to yourself for 2025?
Ooh. So I try to come up with a key word, and my key word for actually the last couple of years has been soften. That's what I say to myself when I can feel my body getting hijacked, especially with my kids. Like when I'm getting triggered by their behaviors, is my mission is to soften. My mission is to continue to practice being compassionate and open-minded and kind as much as is important to me as a person. But I would like to point out to people that does not make you weak, because I'm not here to perform for anyone. I'm actually not very nice. I'm a kind person.
Boom.
What about yours?
I forgot. My commitment to myself it goes back to ease, is allowing. So my
Good. I
word
like
for the
that
year
word.
was expansive. And I think part of being expansive is also
Yeah.
allowing things to shift, allowing things to ebb and flow as they must.
And trusting yourself. You will ride the wave. No, I love that. Find your word that resonates with you. Find the word that when you hold on to it, you can feel yourself in these moments, and allow, soften, surrender is a huge one that I use with clients. Like, surrender, honey. It's scary, but oftentimes we are making the fight worse for ourselves than we would if we just surrender.
Thank you so much for joining me.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Of course.